All right, let's move on to day 3. Craig Woodson, safety from Cal. This was honestly, and look, I don't think it was a bad pick. This was probably the pick that I was the most like, I guess.
The most pick?
Yeah, they talked about him being able to play deep safety. I don't like, there were guys on the board that have more speed, more range. I think the versatility is probably part of it because he's not going to be a full-time free safety like a guy like Andrew Makuba would have been, but all right. And they couldn't have taken Makuba here. He was off the board, but like, all right, we're going to put him on the back end on third downs, obvious passing situations. He's going to be able to play in the box for us a little bit. He can cover tight ends. We can use him as a big nickel, when we need to stop the run, things like that. He's going to be a great special teams player. He said in his post-draft interview, he loves to hit people. So I think it was like just right. No, I don't hate him as a player. This is one where I think for what they were trying to accomplish, I think there were better players on the board to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. A guy like Billy Bowman from Oklahoma. Now, Billy Bowman was undersized. Craig Woodson's a bigger guy, so maybe that's part of it. They wanted some of the size there, but I see what they were going for, and he's going to have a role. I just wonder if they could have. I would have approached it differently, personally.
So it feels like, they seem to disagree with you as far as where he ranks on the board. This feels like a best player available type of pick. But they need a free safety, Barth. And I know based on the research I did anyway, that there weren't a ton of legit free safety, deep safety prospects in this draft, especially if you want to take one on day 3. Feels like most of the safeties that went are, playing closer to the line of scrimmage, maybe in the intermediate part of the field. I know there's talk that Woodson can cover tight ends in his scouting reports. And so that's what I'm interested to see when I take a deeper dive on the pick. Ryan Cowden defended the pick. He mentioned, Kevin Byard was the guy he mentioned for the Titans' third-round pick. Turned out to be much better than his draft stock suggested.
There is some similar profile. I think Byard is a better athlete, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's the thing is that it feels like Woodson comes up a little bit short in the athleticism department. People talk about his long speed, and so doesn't feel like the guy that's going to be defending big plays down the field. It feels like more of a short to intermediate area safety. They already have a couple of those. Makes you wonder about what the future holds for the other safeties in the organization.
Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar.
Exactly, yeah. So I feel like Woodson is going to play. He gets talked about as a leader too, a lead by example type of guy, and so they view him as a culture guy, it seems. And they wanted to add to the depth at safety there. I feel like he is going to play. He's going to have a role here, but he's not necessarily going to fill the need that they had at that particular position.
Let's keep going here. Another 4th-round pick. So
are we still online, Barth?
We are.
No beeps in a while.
Check
That's
the comments. I think that we are good. It looks like we are good.
All right.
Staying in the 4th round, Patriots moved up and took Joshua Farmer, defensive lineman from Florida State, 6'3", 305, athletic, attacking defensive tackle, mainly a run player. He's at his best against the run at Florida State, has some pass rush upside, but that's purely untapped right now. Look, this coaching staff's done a good job with developing pass rushers, so we'll see. To me, this pick is more about, all right, you put him, Christian Barmore, if he's healthy, Milton Williams, Keon White. These are 4 guys that all sort of profile similarly, and it's a lot of athleticism up front. Not a lot of offensive lines are going to be built to handle that. And Mike Vrabel talked about they're not going to blitz a ton. So it's guys you can get creative with. And they're going to have to get creative up front with these guys in order to scheme up some pressures. But Farmer's another player who can do that. Again, is good at playing the run, which I was kind of wondering if they'd try to get, more of a nose tackle type, but Farmer has some 3-down upside. So maybe that's what they value. They're a little small up front now, but they have a lot of athleticism, and Farmer being able to play the run at his size helps.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the thing about the Vrabel defense is that they don't blitz a lot, but that's because the guys they have up front are aggressive. They get aggressive with the guys they have up front. They scheme it up or they attack gaps aggressively. Right. So they don't necessarily need to blitz that much. And so that part I understand. I got to see a little bit of film of Farmer, Barth, from watching his tape against LSU with Will Campbell. And so
talking about 23.
Yeah, this was a couple years ago. Yeah. But the scouts seem to disagree on him as a player based on what I read about him. Lance Zierlein thinks he should be more of a 2-gap type of player. Doesn't have the first step quickness or explosiveness. NFL Draft Buzz, which I really like, their scouting reports, very detailed. They view him as he does have that first step explosiveness. And so The tape against LSU, he was more, clogging up space. So it was really hard to tell how he looked, like how his explosion was off the snap. So that's what I'm going to be interested to see, if I could see more film on that, how aggressive he is and how explosive he is in those situations. There seems to be some disagreement about that, but based on, overall, the profile is a guy that sort of complements Milton Williams and Christian Barmore and those guys up front pretty well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they can stop the run and stop some of these bigger offensive games and fronts with their relative lack of size up front. But, I like the pick for where they got him. And I feel like he's going to be a guy that, plays maybe more than people are expecting for a day 3 pick.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that maybe the reason they're split is like he has that explosiveness, which you usually look for in a pass rusher, but he's better at stopping the run. So yeah. It's kind of a unique skill set, which can make those guys tough to evaluate. Into the 5th round, keep working on the front. Bralon Swinson, pass rusher from LSU. Another guy that I just think has the tools you give him to this coaching staff to coach up. I don't mind that they waited on edge rusher. I know some people were a little concerned about that. They weren't going to be able to hit all their big needs in the top 100. They just weren't. It's a deeper class. So Swinson, projected top 100 pick to get him where they did. I don't think that he's like that linchpin lead rusher. He's not the Matthew Judon type. That's something, we'll go back to talking about next year. But as a complimentary rusher, I think has some upside.
Oh, this is my favorite pick.
Okay.
My favorite pick based on where they got and the fact that he fell a little bit. Yeah. And I doubt that he fell because of character concerns or anything like that, because the Patriots have been prioritizing. Well,
so he was
guys.
The one. It was mentioned in The Beast from Dane Brugler that he did get into it with coaches a little bit at LSU.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe Vrabel can handle something like that.
Right.
Right. If it's a guy because he loves football and he's passionate, I mean, that's sort of something you probably have to parse out.
And I also thought it was interesting that he talked about in his post-draft interview, like mentioning some of the Patriots coaches by name and like, I'm looking forward to working with these guys. So maybe it was a one-off. I don't think there's anything out there about it outside of that.
Did he fall 40 spots because of that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think it's because he's relatively raw and it feels like he's sort of one-dimensional in the fact that he's a pass rusher, and maybe he has to work on, situationally how he approaches certain plays. But physically, he's got all the tools you need in a pass rusher. And so I feel like, he might just be a complimentary situational pass rusher type of guy. But I think you're going to see him make a lot of impact on 3rd down. You could see him, maybe sooner than you're expecting for a 5th round pick. And I know they have Harold Landry. They have Caleb on Chase on to play edge roles. But I feel like Bralon Swinson's going to mix in relatively quickly. Maybe it takes some time to build some trust with the coaches and, work on situationally how he approaches certain things in game. But great athlete, and he was expected to go top 100. They got him 137. So I thought that was a great value pick, and I feel like he's going to be a better player than his draft stock would indicate.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we started to have a wait. They trade back at 182 in the 6th round. Kicker Andres Borregales for Miami.
There's a hit for
automatic me. Andy. I can't believe I didn't mock the kicker. I just thought they were going to go into the UDFA pool for it. Because I didn't think any of these kickers, I thought there's a chance none of these kickers would get drafted, but they take Andy Borregales, 182nd overall. Jeremy Springer had preached consistency during the pre-draft process, and he was the most consistent kicker in this draft. All 4 years he was in college. The highs and lows very close to each other. Kind of went to another level. Was in the 90% hit rate for the first time in his career last year. So it took a step, but within that was consistent. Not the biggest leg in the draft, but a big leg. He can hit in the 50s if you need him to. Love his mindset. Talked about, called Adam Vinatieri a legend, a guy he's always looked up to. The only thing is, can he kick in the cold? And we won't get an answer to that until we get an answer to it. But when he was asked about it, I loved what he said. He didn't downplay it. I hate it when kickers are, it's just kicking, right? No, it's not. It's different. The wind, the cold up here, the snow, it changes your approach. He didn't downplay it. He said, I know it's a question, and I'm looking forward to proving people wrong. So he knows it's something he's going to have to deal with. He knows it's a variable, and he's ready to tackle it head on. So I liked that answer from him. We'll see. Again, we'll see when we see with him when it comes to that, but he was best kicker in the draft, period. And it's not, I don't want to hear people compare it to Chad Ryland. They took him 70 spots later than they took Ryland. Ryland was a reach because they freaked out because the Niners took Jake Moody on day 2. So they had to okay, shoot, the kickers are going, which by the way, the Ravens did, overdrafting Tyler Loop right after the Patriots took Borregales. So it's different. 6th round pick. He was the, I think, 7th or 8th player off their board, whereas Ryland was their 5th. We'll see. He's going to compete with John Parker Romo. I think he should win that competition, Borregales, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think Borregales is the kicker. I don't think John Parker Romo is going to beat him out for that job. Accuracy and consistency for me are the important areas of being a kicker. I think having a big leg is sort of overrated. Chad Ryland had a big leg, but he sprayed the ball all over the place, and so you saw how that turned out. I generally like my kickers to be accurate, and you sort of know what you're getting from them. That's what I like about the Borregales pick. And yeah, like you'll see with the cold weather, like he has a little bit of cold weather experience, just not, consistently, not throughout the season. Like he's going to play half of his games in Foxborough. He's going to have to go up to Buffalo and New York City, or, East Rutherford, New Jersey is what I was trying to get to. He's kicked in South Florida before, so hopefully, maybe they could win a game in Miami, with a kick at the end, because Borregales has experience down there. I love this pick. He was the best kicking prospect in the draft. He has the qualities that I want in a kicker, and ideally the Patriots don't have to attempt a lot of 50-plus yard field goals, because they're getting into the red zone and they're not stalling out at, the 35-yard line. Hopefully we just see less of that in general from the offense. So I really like this pick, and I think he's going to be kicker from day one.
So this was an interesting one. They then go 7th round, first to 3 7th-round picks, pick 220, Marcus Bryant, offensive tackle, Missouri. After spending so much time talking about should the Patriots take Missouri's right tackle in the first round and move him to left, they took Missouri's left tackle in the last round and might move him to right. So Bryant, first of all, nth tier athlete. His RAS score, his closest comps are Joe Thomas and Jonathan Ogden.
All right.
Which that's relative athletic score. That's based on height, weight, measurables, and athletic testing. He's an elite athletic tester at, I think, 6'5", 330 with 35-inch arms, if I'm remembering correctly.
Pretty
big
good.
Dude. So why do you go in the 7th round? He's high-hipped. He's built kind of weird. He's high-hipped. It's tough for him to get low and win leverage.
Yeah.
He's very lurking.
Pad level.
Yeah. And then on top of that, again, he's athletic. So when I say he's a little slow, his reaction is slow. He needs to react to things better. But if he's going to start in the NFL, it's probably going to be at right tackle. It's certainly with the Patriots profiles as more as a right tackle. That's getting up there. That would be the ideal to me. What I think their thought logic is with this pick. So he played left tackle at Missouri. He also has 500 snaps in his college career at right tackle at SMU before he transferred. So this is a guy that truly has played both sides. The athleticism kind of helps with that. I think ideally he's your swing tackle. He comes in, he beats out Vidarian Lowe for the backup left tackle job. He beats out DeMontre Jacobs for the backup right tackle job, because if you keep Vidarian Lowe as your backup left tackle, Lowe has proven he can't play on the right side. And the same goes for Jacobs backing up on the right for the left side. What you want, and trust me, it's much harder to find this player than it sounds, is a guy who can truly play both spots. And I don't know that Marcus Bryant is a guy that's ever going to come in and, you're going to want starting 17 games for your team. But to have him, and if he has to fill in for a game or two, and he can do it at either spot, saves you a roster spot, saves you having to keep one tackle, and it's just a really good insurance card to have. That's what I think Marcus Bryant is. I don't know that he'll be that guy. He has some work to do to get to being that guy. But if he becomes that guy, this is a really good pick.
Yeah, no, what I like about this pick, Barth, is that the athletic part, right? I like that much more than, he plays with great technique, but he's not the best athlete. Those guys have, the ceiling is through the floor, and the floor isn't as high as you want it to be. With a guy like that, I would much rather gamble on an athlete at this spot, so I'm glad they did that. And, for a raw player that needs to, develop, there are a few better spots to land than in New England with Doug Marrone and his experience and his acumen as an offensive line coach. And so I would hope that Doug Marrone can sort of unlock things with Bryant. And yes, can he play both sides? Can he develop into a swing tackle type? That's what I'm hoping for him. I thought initially, I would be fine with him competing for the backup left tackle spot. I think he's legitimate competition for Vidarian Lowe. We've talked ad nauseum about Vidarian Lowe. Obviously Will Campbell is going to be the left tackle, but I would like Marcus Bryant to compete for a backup spot in that role. And obviously he's played right tackle before. Yeah. And so can he be the swing tackle? I would hope that they could sort of develop that. And I get it. His build is a little weird. There might be things that he just sort of can't overcome in terms of how he gets his leverage and things like that. But I think the athletic profile is there. It's good enough that they could sort of develop him into something. And so I have high hopes that he can, again, this is obviously the theme with anyone taking on day 3. this is a guy that I hope that they can give him more value than it would suggest being drafted in the 7th round.
So then the Patriots were supposed to pick at 223. We're like, all right, we're going to wrap this thing up, put a bow on it. Nope. Move back for 251 and 257. Don't tell me I do too many trades in my mock drafts. 5 trades, including that 7th round swap. Don't tell me I get too into it with the trades. With the first of those picks at 251, long snapper Julian Ashby from Vanderbilt. They've been kind of moving through all those captains and longtime players. Joe Cardona's the only player left on the team who won a Super Bowl here. That's probably not for long. Ashby, Lance Zierlein called him the best long snapper in the draft. It sounded like if he had hit the UDFA market, there was going to be a pretty big bidding war for his services. The fact the Patriots took him, I think, means that Joe Cardona, maybe he gets through the year and they keep 2, or maybe they can get Ashby on the practice squad or something. But, you draft the long snapper, wherever you draft him, he should be the long snapper moving forward.
Right. No, I think he's the long snapper. And I think this is variable saying he wants to flush out the very last remnant of the dynasty. I think, Joe Cardona, once he's out of here, that's it. Nobody left from the dynasty era. This is a whole new era. We are finally starting fresh. The whole new regime, whole new roster, all that. And so that's what I think this move suggests. They're not going to save a ton of money on it. Like Joe Cardona was only on the books for $1.5 million. And so you replace him with Julian Ashby, and like, you're probably not going to save much money there. They might not save anything based on whatever they save on the cap, but that's all this move suggests, is that they have a new long snapper, new era on special teams, new era overall, just getting rid of that last piece of the dynasty.
And then with the last pick, Mr. Irrelevant, third Mr. Irrelevant in Patriots history, Marty Moore, who was their first, actually became the first Mr. Irrelevant to play in a Super Bowl. Kobe Minor, cornerback from Memphis, has played at 3 schools. He's at Texas Tech for 3 years, then transferred to Indiana for a year, and then was at Memphis last year. Has played inside, outside, has the athleticism to play both. Ton of special teams experience. He'll compete for those depth corner roles, but I think that they probably drafted him as a special teams player.
Yeah, no, I'm fine bringing him in for depth and competition at cornerback. But yeah, realistically, he's going to play on special teams. The versatility, lends itself to playing on different parts of the special teams units. So that's sort of all I see about him. So if I'm correct me if I'm mistaken, Barth, the Joe Milton trade now turned into the kicker, the long snapper, and Mr. Irrelevant.
I believe so. Yeah,
that's the ultimate return for Joe Milton,
who's probably going to be a gunner.
Yeah, we'll see.
You
kicker, long snapper, gunner. They traded Joe Milton for an entire
to
special
revamp
teams
their special teams unit.